You know, this voting booth is a little less stable than we'd like it to be. It wobbles and it shakes. We got to make sure that we do everything we can to shore up the voting booth and the process that lies behind it. As mandated in the Constitution, every state and every municipality every 10 years has to draw new election maps to take into account shifts in population. Too often that process has been abused. Partisan operators take the map drawing process to make sure that their candidates win and that the other folks lose. And those maps that produce those results are locked in for 10 years. That's happened in Pennsylvania before. Both parties have been guilty of it. In 2011, the process was positively goofy. We ended up with congressional maps that looked like this, which some folks have suggested looks like Donald Duck kicking Goofy. No way for elected representatives to represent their voters. That's why we launched Draw the Lines PA. Draw the Lines PA is an experiment in massive public engagement in the map drawing process. Through biannual competitions, we've enlisted 7,211 Pennsylvania citizens and given them the chance to draw their own congressional maps. In the process, helping them understand why the maps are important and how every twist and turn of that map can make a difference in the elections that take place. Draw the Lines is coming into the spotlight now because from those 7,211 submissions, we've drawn a composite citizens congressional map and are using that as the official process unfolds to make sure that the voice of the citizens is heard. That map, representing the work of citizens from 40 of the state's counties, representing 90% of the state's population, should serve as a great benchmark to make sure that we end up with a fair and responsive and representative map. Another issue that we've put front and center on the Committee of 70 screen is the issue of allowing independent voters to vote in primary elections in Pennsylvania. In 2020, 95% of the state House races were decided in the primary, meaning that independent voters, the million independent voters in the Commonwealth, who couldn't vote in those elections, had no voice in who their representative ultimately was. We think that's wrong. Pennsylvania is one of only 9 states that bars independents from voting. We think it's also damaging to the governing process because primary elections bring out the most extreme voters from the right and the left, and therefore when the dust settles after the election, their elected representative has very little incentive to move towards the middle, to compromise and get things done. So we'll continue to work on that issue to bring the voting process to 1 million Pennsylvanians who have been excluded over the years. You won't miss the Volkswagen, and it says... Some of you may remember from last year's event, we did a little bit with the Philly Fanatic, promising a Volkswagen tour of the Commonwealth to spread the word about good voting habits and to push back against partisan gerrymandering. Well, you know what? We pulled it off. Earlier this year, the Great Volkswagen Tour of Pennsylvania set out and visited 47 communities around the Commonwealth, racking up 2,267 miles on the old Volkswagen.